ripping families apart, putting people to the ground, putting people in for-profit private detention centers. Does that align with our values? My name's Anu Joshi. I'm the National Campaigns Director for Immigration here at the ACLU. We know that change happens in the courtroom, in the streets, in the legislature, but also at the dinner table. Here's some advice for how to talk to your family and friends about civil rights and civil liberties this season. Okay, so the first question, who can play a part in making our communities fairer and more compassionate? I'm glad that we're starting off with an easy one because the reality is everyone. I don't think anyone thought I would say anything else. And especially in this moment when it really feels like our government is doing everything it can to inflict cruelty on our communities and to restrict our civil rights and civil liberties, it's even more important for all of us to take responsibility and to do anything we can, even if it's small. When I think about this, I think about the moms who are taking shifts and making sure that the kids and the parents that go to their local schools can get there safely. I think about the faith leaders who are holding vigils outside of detention centers so that the people who are being held inside those awful facilities know that they aren't forgotten. The truth is that everyone can do something. If you see something happening, someone's rights being violated, you have a really important tool in your pocket. And we really encourage folks to record whatever you're seeing and to make sure that you are safe if you feel like someone's rights are being violated with law enforcement. I joined the No Kings protest this year and I felt really fired up, but I don't know what to do next. How can I build on my involvement in the protests? And so that's a really good question. I know that there were 2,700 events that happened across the country. More than 6 million people came out to say, we deserve a democracy that works for all of us. It's a very natural question to ask, okay, well, now what? What I really find so powerful about organizing is to remember that all organizing is local. You are an expert on your own community. You know what your community needs are, and you probably actually know what the solutions are. So find out what's happening in your community. Find out, where are opportunities to get involved in your local city council? Is there someone running for school board that you want to support or oppose? Do you want to run? And if all else fails, go to peoplepower.org. We have a lot of different ways people can get involved. Everything from monthly trainings to action call online to joining our Slack channel. And of course, we offer partnering with our affiliates in-person activities and events and ways to stay engaged if you are able to. I try to talk to my friends, but they feel overwhelmed by all the bad news and say they just need to tune it out. How can I get through to them? Well, first, let me say that I deeply empathize and sympathize with your friends. I often, too, also want to tune out all of the bad news. What I try to remind myself when I'm faced with this same sort of problem is we really need to meet people where they are. It can be a hard lesson to swallow, especially if there's an issue that you feel super passionate about. I know I get this way. Sometimes my friends have to tell me, relax. One thing that I found that helps is offering small ways that people can get engaged. And rather than just offering or talking about the problems, which there are so many, and sometimes it's easy to get lost, is to really at least try to talk sometimes about the solutions and how people can actually really get engaged, even if it's in very small ways. Offering that little bit of hope or that little bit of not everything is so bleak can sometimes help people kind of get out of that downward spiral. And every time there's a small win, we had a big win in Providence, Rhode Island, where City Council passed a resolution to protect the privacy of their community members from immigration enforcement. And so those are the sorts of stories that I try to share. Even though it might feel so bleak, there are lots of really incredible people trying so hard, and that we can all play a part in that. This next question is very close to my heart. I'll preface it by saying I've been doing immigration work for almost 20 years. And this is a question that I definitely get a lot. I know a lot of people think President Trump's plans are too harsh on immigrants. But really, what are other options to enforce our laws and protect our borders? I want to start this off by saying, for me, this is really a question about our priorities as a country. Where do we want to spend our resources, and really to what end? About 30 years ago, we started thinking about immigration as a problem to solve rather than what it really is, like deeply integral to the fabric of our country. And what we have seen is that year after year, our leaders have invested literally hundreds of billions of dollars in immigration enforcement. And now we're seeing masked, unidentified agents ripping families apart, putting people to the ground, putting people in for-profit private detention centers. Is that what we think is the best, highest use of our money, our resources, our time? Does that align with our values? I certainly don't feel safer. And I would contend that most people don't feel safer. And so it's not a question about should we enforce our laws or not, but a question of how and to what end, and what aren't we doing because we're investing so much money in immigration enforcement. My family member was in the military and says that the National Guard are just following orders when they deploy to American cities. What can I say to them? So as a DC resident, this question really resonated. But I also know that having been able to talk to many of these National Guards that are on our streets, that they're also upset and anxious. They're missing time away from their families. You know, I was talking to a couple who missed back to school with their kids. They aren't quite sure what they're doing in DC. I think what's important to remember, and what I try to remind myself, is that National Guard, for the most part, when someone signs up, they really want to serve their neighbors. They want to help their communities recover from forest fires and floods and other national disasters. And the truth is that we all need them to be prepared to do this really critical work. Our Guard deserves better than to be treated like a political prop. The only other thing I'll say is that it's important to remember that no matter what uniform law enforcement is wearing, whether it's National Guard, whether it's your local police, whether it's FBI, whether it's Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, they all must abide by the Constitution. They are all held to the standards of the Constitution. And so, we all need to do our part to keep them accountable. In the face of constant bad news, how do you stay hopeful? What a great question. And so I think the first thing I want to say is I don't always. It's been very important for me to be okay with that and to know that I have a community, family, friends, colleagues, fighters, activists who can help take up the mantle when I'm feeling down, who push me, who will listen to me. That's really, really important to me. I also find that it's incredibly important to find moments of joy that have nothing to do with politics. I am in a bocce league, and that's really important to me. And I always make time for it, no matter what's happening. Finding people who care as much as I do about different issues, who are putting their whole heart and soul into it. When I find that in our volunteers, when I go to protests, whenever I'm doing any of these things, that brings me so much joy, and it makes me feel like we will win. What's your thing to do to pump yourself up, blow off steam when your work gets to be a lot? One thing to know about me is I love television, absolutely love it. I spend many, many hours watching television. It really, really helps me be able to do this work. I currently am a huge fan of the UK show Taskmaster, which I find really funny. My favorite podcast is actually a D-list celebrity podcast called Who Weekly. Has absolutely nothing to do with politics. And the last thing that I'll share, since we're getting personal, is I'm a huge Britney Spears fan. I've been a Britney Spears fan since 1998. When she was on her mall tour, and it brings me so much joy. So those are 3 things that I like to do to blow off steam. Thanks for watching, and for all of you who submitted questions. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And make sure to like and subscribe to the ACLU's YouTube channel.